Yeah, so hopefully you've had the chance to go maybe take a break or just to the bathroom or anything like that. Get your plate, get your bowl, get your cereal. I've got my cereal bowl,
Oh, I love it. So cute.
and this is my dinner plate. So,
Nice.
um, and this is my mini wheats.
Love it.
They're,
Awesome.
they're actually with maple flavor. So
Very Canadian.
for sure.
So I thought we could start off first with just having an idea of what balance is and the types of foods that you should try and bring into every meal to create balance. And this is regardless of how you eat. So if you're vegetarian or if you eat meat, these same rules apply regardless of how you eat. So the 4 key things, you should be able to look down at your plate or look at your bowl at pretty much every single meal and identify 4 key things. There should be some protein, some color, some slow carbs, and some healthy fat. So each one of those 4 things plays a different role in our body. Your protein helps to build the structures of your body. The color is really important for your vitamins, for your minerals. Your slow carbs, things like whole grains or beans, lentils, some vegetables, excuse me, they provide the energy for your body. And your healthy fat, really important for doing things like building hormones, for supporting your brain health. So we need each one of those 4 things in majority of our meals. So that's the first thing. Even when you're having breakfast or you're having dinner, whatever your next meal might be, look at your plate and see if you've got those 4 key things: protein, color, slow carbs, and healthy fat. Now, the next thing is, how do we balance those things onto our plate? So I'm just going to hold a picture up for you to help you, as I wiggle my chair, to explain it a little bit more. But if you can imagine your plate, and maybe you've got your plate in front of you, ideally, if you were to draw a line down the middle of your plate, half of your plate should be reserved for color. This is where your vegetables go into it. It might be a salad, it might be steamed veggies, it might be a soup that you start your meal with. But ideally, half of your meal should be color. And then on the other side of your plate, if you draw another line, so now you've got 2 quarters, 1 quarter should be for a protein-rich food. And again, doesn't matter if you eat meat or if you're vegetarian or if you're vegan, there should be some type of protein in your meal. And the bottom quarter is for your slow carbs. So these are things like whole grains, like brown rice or quinoa, sweet potato, whole grain tortilla, that would fit in that small space. That's reserved for your slow carbs. And then your healthy fat doesn't really get a specific spot on your plate because often it's incorporated with other components of the meal. Maybe it's the olive oil that you cooked your chicken in. Maybe it's the avocado that you've put on your salad. Maybe it's the egg that's part of your breakfast. But healthy fat, there should always be some sort of healthy fat in with your meal. And so that's how you start creating the balance. I see you smiling there, Shealagh. What are you thinking?
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, like, if we could just really take that moment and actually even imagine what might be on that plate. People probably are already doing that as they imagine the color on their plate, but really to get like a body sense of that, of really tuning into like, what does that broccoli smell like, or what is that roasted cauliflower, or what is that, whatever happens to be on there. If we can really take that in, right, particularly now it's delighting me because I'm really hungry. but just to take that in and to feel nurtured by the food versus the shoulds or the have tos, like to really attune to the nurture that's available to you through the food in this moment. by having whatever you want in those quarters from those groups, and just imagining what that might be like to feel really good about, hey, yeah, there it is. I've got my half all the color. Yeah, there it is. I was picturing all kinds of foods going on when you were talking about it. So I just wanted to invite people to really, let that come into the body.
And I think that's a really good point. Just with, I do want you to think about that. And I do want you to think about, oh, she said I can have potato on my plate, or I can have rice on my plate. And how does that make you feel? And hopefully it makes you feel good, like nothing's being deprived, like nobody's taking something away from you. Because food really should be that thing that nourishes you and makes you feel good, or brings you together with people, with community, with your family, or even just bringing you into a space where you can be calm with yourself if you're eating alone. And so often I feel that we think we're doing the wrong thing when it comes to our food, and we think we can't have carbohydrates, or I can't eat potato. And I really want you to know that of course you can. Of course you can have those things. There is no bad food. There really is no such thing as bad food. There is potentially the wrong portions of food. But I'm going to even use French fries as an example. If you put a small amount of French fries on your plate, and they only took up that one little quarter of your plate, and the rest of your plate's full of color and maybe some grilled chicken or some black beans, fantastic. There's nothing wrong with those French fries. You could potentially choose a slightly more nutrient-dense food like sweet potato. There's nothing wrong with those French fries being there, because it's all about the amount that you're choosing and balancing it out with the other things that are nourishing you. And when you think about it that way, I hope that just helps you to feel a little more relaxed around what you're eating and what you choose to eat. Because ideally that's what I'd love for you to feel, is just that, oh, I get to eat. I get to eat a nourishing meal, not what are the rules around this? Am I doing the right thing? Hopefully that's just a couple of little tips that can make you feel a little more relaxed around that.
Well, I love the image too of like when we're a baby, and how, from the very beginning, it was about nourishment. It was about comfort, like you were saying. And I was just picturing as babies, if we can, imagine that. I mean, we weren't sitting there worried about, well, what's in this mama's milk thing anyway, and, oh, is there too many calories? Or it's like, bringing it back to that, being able to just take it in as absolutely enjoyable, pleasurable nourishment, and enjoying what's on that plate,
Yeah. And I think a little piece to that, maybe this is something that we can okay, we're gonna do a little pretend imagination thing at the moment, just for fun. Taking your time with your food is so good on so many different levels. Your digestive system likes slow. We digest our food much better when we eat slowly and when we're in a calm state. And often when it comes to our meals, we tend to rush through our meals. Maybe not all the time, but often meals can feel like it's just something that's getting in the way of doing something else. And sometimes we don't spend enough time just sitting, being mindful and enjoying what we're eating. And one exercise that I get people to do when it comes to slowing down, and you might have heard this before, but when you eat with a knife and fork, it naturally slows you down. You have to cut your food, you eat the food, and then you're doing the next thing. And I've tried this myself, and maybe this is an experiment that you could do at home. When you hold food, and whatever it is that you're eating and you're holding it, you eat that food a lot faster. any type of food that you can hold and eat, I guarantee you can eat it much, much faster than if you were to cut it up and eat it with a knife and fork. And so pizza, for example, it's such a great example. We often eat pizza with our hands. If you ate that pizza with a knife and fork, and you put your knife and fork down in between bites, you can almost guarantee that you'll eat less pizza and you'll be just as satisfied, because it takes about 20 minutes for our stomach to register fullness. So when you're eating with your hands, you can consume a lot of food before your stomach actually tells your brain that you're full, that you don't need any more. And often when we eat food with our hands, like takeout, like burgers and fries, and you've probably experienced this, after you've eaten it, you feel really full, you feel really stuffed, and you usually feel like you've eaten too much and you feel really heavy, and you probably are really full because you've eaten it with your hands, and you've eaten it so fast, you've overfilled your stomach, but your stomach hasn't had a chance to tell your brain to stop. So if you were to take that same meal, eat it with a knife and fork, and you can't actually see, so we can't actually do this, but if you can even imagine like cutting up your fries, if we're eating a burger and fries, if you were to cut fries and you're cutting like 2 at a time, putting it on a fork and eating it, putting your fork down, maybe having a little chat, because now you can chat to your friend because you don't have a mouthful of food, it's going to take a lot longer to eat. And that's maybe just a little exercise that you could do at home at some point during the week. Take something that you would typically eat with your hands and eat it with a knife and fork. See how much slower that you actually consume that food, and pay attention to, am I actually feeling full sooner than I would if I was just to eat that? And it might take you a couple of times. It might be a good experience, a good experiment to eat it first, how you normally would with your hands. And then next week, eat exactly the same thing with a knife and fork. And notice the difference in how you feel when you eat slowly.
Yeah. I can totally imagine that as you were talking. I was like, absolutely, it would take me twice as much time to eat.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And that's one of the things I use with clients I work with. I'm a big fan of having something on the table, like a big salad, a big delicious salad with tons of things in there, and having that on your plate, because it slows you down. Eating salad with a knife and fork, it's really hard to overeat salad because it takes so long to eat it. And if you're eating salad in between, I'll just go back to the pizza. If you're eating salad in between eating pizza, it's going to really slow you down because you have to use your knife and fork. So it's not just the fact that salad is, you're getting your veggies. It's salad is helping you to slow down and eat in a more controlled way.
That's great. And physiologically, it sounds like that, your digestion works better when it's not, it's like I think the log on the fire thing I like to use is, you don't want to like start a fire and then just throw a big, huge log on it to think it's going to burn, right? I mean, you need to slowly kind of feed the bigger sticks and the bigger sticks, and then, maybe a log, right? So I think that just having that slowly burning is better than trying to digest one huge log at once. Smoke, and then it doesn't heat up very well, and usually the fire goes out, which digestive fire I think is really really important.
Absolutely.
So the snacking, is there anything around snacking?
Firstly, I think the timing of your meals. Obviously, like paying attention and listening to your natural hunger cues is number one. But number two, ideally, you don't want to leave more than, say, 4 hours between having a meal or a meal and a snack. And so what I mean by that is, if you have breakfast at, say, 8 o'clock, and lunch is going to be at 12 o'clock, that's a 4-hour period. You probably don't need a mid-morning snack in that time because it's 4 hours. But now if your lunch is at 12 o'clock and you know dinner isn't going to be until 7 o'clock, which is a 7-hour period, you really should pack a snack with you going to work, or make time for a little snack somewhere at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because it's going to help to stabilize blood sugar levels. You don't want to leave more than about 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours. And you may have noticed this yourself in the afternoon. You've had an early-ish lunch. By the time it gets to 3 or 4 o'clock, that's when those hunger feelings start happening. And if you're at work, maybe you just try and power through them because you think, well, dinner's at 7 o'clock anyway, so I'm going to go grab a coffee, or I'm going to try and distract myself with just getting my work done. And so by the time you get home, maybe it's 5:30 now, you're starving, you're snacking while you're making dinner, and now you're consuming maybe more food than you need to because you're over hungry. Whereas if you plan that snack at, say, 3 or 4 o'clock, you control that hunger, you get to dinner time, and you're better able to control how much you're eating and to tune into your hunger and fullness cues when you've had that snack in the mid-afternoon. But a good kind of rule of thumb for a snack, you want to combine either some sort of protein-rich food with either something colorful, something with a bit of healthy fat, or something with some slow carbs. And Mother Nature's done some pretty great combos on that. So a handful of nuts and seeds, for example, great source of protein. You've got some healthy fat in there, some little bit of slow carbs in there. So a handful of nuts and seeds is a great combo. Awesome. Another one that I love as an afternoon snack, edamame beans. Again, just some steamed edamame beans. Great source of protein. There's some slow carbs in there. There's also a little bit of healthy fat in there. So half a cup of that, it's a perfect thing to get you through the afternoon. A couple of other kind of combos that you could do, even something like a sliced up apple. So you've got some color, maybe with some nut butter on it, some almond butter or some peanut butter to get that protein.
Like not mini wheats?
So with your mini wheats, I'm so glad you brought that up because I totally forgot breakfast. When it comes to something like mini wheats or whatever cereal it might be, maybe it's porridge that you're having, oats in the morning, just go back to those 4 key things. So if you're doing a bowl of cereal like mini wheats, there's not a ton of protein going on there. There's no color yet. There's not really any healthy fat going on there. If you're pouring milk on there, you're probably getting a bit of extra protein. If you're doing an almond milk or cashew milk, you're not getting any extra protein. And you've got some carbs going on there for sure. Dry cereal tends to be a bit of a faster carb than what we're looking for. And by that, I mean all carbohydrates eventually get broken down into sugar. And that's fine. Every single one of our 75 trillion cells in our body uses sugar for energy. So it's totally fine. Fast carbs release their sugars really quickly, and slow carbs release them slowly at a much steadier rate. Those are the ones we want. With your fast carbs, you can slow them down though. And if you have a fast carb like a breakfast cereal, if you simply add some protein, some healthy fat, or some fiber, it's going to turn them, or at least slow down the release of the sugars. So this is where if you have your mini wheats, now you're just going to put 1/4 cup of blueberries on top. Maybe you're going to put some hemp seeds on top. Okay. Pour your milk in. Now you've got all those 4 things. You've got your protein, you've got your color, you've slowed down your carbs, and you've added some healthy fat. Same would go for porridge, like for oats. So your oatmeal, it's an okay source of protein. It's a good source of slow carbs. Tiny bit of healthy fat in there, but we want to bump it up a bit. So this is where we could add some chopped walnuts or chopped almonds. So now we're getting a good source of healthy fat. We're bumping up the protein a little bit, and we can add some color in there. And color, I mean, definitely you could do some chopped up apple in there, some fresh fruit in there. I love doing a couple of tablespoons of dried fruit, either it be dried apricots or dried raisins.
Yummy.
I know raisins are brown and they're not really colourful, but they started their life colourful before they were dried. So that's one of my favourite things that I put in there.
Love it.
Adding the balance. And so we're adding in rather than saying, can't eat mini wheats, that doesn't fit. Not about that at all. It's just about adding in to balance it out.
Yeah, that's why I absolutely love you. I love your work. I've always been a really big fan of yours. And I really feel so grateful that you were able to come on and to share, your really nurturing way of approaching nutrition.
Thank you,
And getting into the body with it, and knowing how it impacts us on all the different levels, like on the emotional level and how that shows up in the body. And I just love that you cover all those bases. And I cannot recommend your work enough. I mean, you really...
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do.
Yeah, you epitomize what I believe is a truly impactful, holistic approach to nutrition. Where it's practical, it's on the spot. I mean, it's not pie in the sky. It's really doable, and it feels good. It just feels good. So I just remember the wonderful things that you used to bring and make at the center for people, and they loved it. And the smoothies and the pestos and all the different things that you used to put together, and it was just a huge hit.
Thank you.
Great food. Yeah. So I want to thank you again for being here.
You're welcome. Anytime. Honestly, anytime. I love it.
Yeah, your presence is just truly a gift. And I want to wrap this up now because I know you have to go. And I will hopefully be connecting with you again soon so that we can talk more on, these things that we've touched on, because now I have all kinds of curiosities. So we will definitely have your information available. And when people are listening and participants on the call, they want to reach you, your website, and that would be what, so that you can...
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my website is Origins Nutrition Inc. So INC on the end.com. And if you're looking for recipe inspiration, check out my Instagram, Origins Nutrition 2010. I'm often posting recipes and pictures of the types of food that I'm cooking on there as well. And reach out, ask me questions. It's one of my favorite parts of my job is talking about nutrition and answering questions. So yeah, please feel free to shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to answer questions and to help you with what you're looking for.
Great. Yeah, so excited. Thank you so much. I know that this interview will go out there and people will see you and love you and as much as I do. So good to see you, and thanks again for listening in to everyone. And again, Jessi McLennan, and it's McLennan, and it's originsnutritioninc.com. Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye for now.